G'day guys, today we are talking about how to warm up for any push session that you're going to do, whether that be a chest session or a shoulder session. What we need to understand is these two very much interlinked, and therefore we probably could get away with using the exact same warm up for both areas or both groups. However, you can diversify sort of towards the end. So what we are going to do is, first things first, understand the structures in which that we want to warm up to mimic and get some blood flow through to the areas that we're going to be working quite heavily. Okay, and then on top of that, what we want to do is then mimic the movement pattern that we're going to do. Okay, so first things first, why is it that warm-ups are so important? Well, we have a thing called the force velocity curve, and what happens is that what we are called, so let's start with what the force velocity curve is. Force velocity curve is a curve that essentially goes speed with a lighter weight will be up here, and then as the weight increases, our speed of movement decreases. Okay, so you think about just moving an empty barbell for bicep curls. You'll pump out real quick, real fast, and then loading it up to your max, probably a little slower and grinding up. Okay, so that's the force velocity curve in short. Now, the reason why we want to warm up is because what happens is that, say the force velocity curve is just for an empty bar is your starting point, and you can get really fast reps. What happens is that as we warm up, that force velocity curve shifts and it moves down a touch, and so instead of just having an empty bar, you could probably move just as fast a 2.5 or 5 kilos on each end, and all of a sudden you're performing at a higher level, and things are operating a lot better. Plus then your joints are all nice and warm and secure, and things are happening, and the blood's moving around, and as a result you're feeling better. So that, in essence and in short, is why we want to perform warm-ups. The best warm-up that you could possibly do is to mimic the exercise that you're going to do coming up. So, for example, if you're going to do squats, you would do a squat pattern, but for today, obviously, we're doing push, so we're going to mimic that. However, before we do that, what we want to understand is, well, let's break down what we need to do in order to do our pushing process. So we know that we want to be pulling our shoulder blades back and down, so we're going to warm up our lats, getting a little bit of lat work happening. We're definitely going to do some retraction work, and obviously because we are using our shoulders as well and our scapula heavily, we're going to warm up those minor muscles. You'll find that a lot of the cases when it comes to injuries, it's not so much these big massive muscles that we have, such as our chest, our lats, our traps, those big ones that we can see that are going to cause some issues, but it's those deeper, smaller muscles that need to come along with those large loads. They need to be primed and ready before we go ahead and start moving excessive amounts of weight. So we are definitely going to be warming up our rotator cuff muscles in a different in different planes of motion, and then from there we're going to mimic exactly what it is that we need to do and perform when it comes to our presses. So first things first, the first exercise that we are going to do when it comes to our shoulders is we're going to stand up tall and we're going to rotate back. What we need to make sure that we are doing with this particular exercise, I see a lot of people and they swing back and forth like this, and their arms going here, there and everywhere. First point of call with this exercise is I want you to pretend that there's a block sitting underneath your elbow, and you're going to rotate off that block and come back up. Okay, next, when you are setting yourself up for this exercise, you need to pull your shoulder blade back like so and lock it in place. From here, block, and you're going to rotate back as far as you can. So this is taking your hand ideally past your ear. So again, shoulder blades pinned back, block underneath your elbow, pull back to your ear, slow down, okay? Speed isn't your friend in this particular instance. It is all about control, control, control. Okay, so let's go through how it is we're going to do it. Now, we're going to use a band each time. You potentially could, in this particular instance, use a dumbbell, a light one. Our next exercise will address the dumbbell use because it's the biggest, you look like the biggest moron in the world, but we'll talk about this in a minute. Right, so obviously we're going to start slack and then allow this retraction to create, to generate some tension. From here, we're going to block up as if I've got a block underneath the elbow, come back past my ear, and then rotate forward, okay? And don't drop that elbow, okay? Pulling up, back, okay? That there is your first warm-up exercise for your shoulder. Number 2 is the external rotation, so we're coming out. Right, here is why you don't use a dumbbell for this exercise. The tension or the muscle that we're trying to activate here is through your shoulder. It's the rear delt and all these minor rotator cuff muscles. What we need to understand is gravity works like that. It goes down, okay? Now, the reason why you don't use a dumbbell for this exercise is because we are trying to generate resistance in a horizontal plane. Gravity works in a vertical plane, okay? So using a dumbbell, probably great for your biceps to hold it there and go in and out, but it's doing sweet F all for the back here. So you've got to get yourself a resistance band when it comes to this, or use a cable because the weight will move in the vertical plane, although the cable will be moving horizontally. Obviously, with the elasticity of the band, it's going to be pulling you back to the attachment point, and you'll have the resistance to the resistance band. Okay, so this particular exercise, what do we see that goes horribly wrong with these? Well, we end up seeing people with their elbows flaring out and doing all sorts of whiz-bang things like that. Now, what I want you to do with this particular exercise, we're going to pull back and down. Okay, we're going to shore up these lats. We're going to dive that elbow in nice and tight, and then all we're going to do from this position here is come out and back in. Out and back in. Okay, we're going to lock it right up. So again, start in nice and tight. Okay, from this position here, come out, back in. It's a really easy, really basic movement. Remember, we're not trying to fire up just yet all the lats, the traps and all that stuff. That comes next. We concentrate on these minor muscles, trying to get them warm, get them going. Right, so that there are the 2 starting points. Now, depending on whether or not you're doing a shoulder shoulder day in particular, I like to throw these in just for good health, but if you're doing a shoulder, or look, I strongly suggest doing this same thing for both your chest and shoulder day, but it's up to you. What I would then do is move into to a press. So we're going to pull our shoulder blade back and down. We're going to end up in this position here, just like our first exercise. However, from this position, what we're going to do is be pressing up. So you're going to pull back, rotate back, press above your head. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and that there will start to warm up this whole shoulder complex and all your shoulder and your delt exercises. Right, now, because this is a push day and we are going to be doing some chest work in it as well, we are going to move into some scapular retraction, because obviously when we do our presses from the bench, we're going to be pulling our shoulder blades back and down. So we're going to start moving into the posterior chain, and then we'll start moving into the activation exercises for the chest. So grab a hold of your band that's tied up to the attachment point, or grab yourself a band if you're not using one. Simply start in this position here. Okay, we're going to pull our shoulder blades back and down. We're going to pull out. Okay, don't pull back, pull out. So again, shoulder blades back and down. We're going to pull out this as far as we can go and squeeze that middle of the back. Again, shoulder blades back and down, squeeze the middle of that back. Pull our hands out as far as we can go. Okay, and we're just going to pump them out like so. This will start to work the retraction process, those rear delts, and so on. Right. Next, there are a couple more. There's a couple more ways you can do your lats. All right. So if you want to put a little bit more work into your retraction, you can do some rows. So we're going to pull down and use a supinated grip. get those lats heavily involved, and also some retraction. So I do suggest getting into this, okay? Or you can go from a higher point, like so, and you can pull down and start to do some lat pull throughs. Also a really good viable option. Make sure that we are trying to push our hands all the way back and behind and really get that scapula right in. So I'm looking to go, I'm looking to be coming up, pushing back, right back here as far as we can go. Okay, so that there is now our posterior chain and our minor muscles taken care of. When it comes to the presses, now again, I strongly suggest, because we are arching our back for a dumbbell press or a military press, if that's where you're starting, definitely make sure that you warm up your posterior chain. Lastly, what we are going to do is start to focus in on your chest. Now, the greatest way to activate your chest is obviously to mimic the movement, but before you get under the barbell, I actually suggest that you do a couple things. One, if you have access to just a generic reverse fly machine or a pec deck or something like that, just get some blood through first and squeeze that chest. If you don't have access to those, you could use dumbbells, but what you can do is you can use this band, okay, and create some tension like so, all right, even if you want to wrap it up like that, all right. And what we're going to do is we're just going to press across like so, okay. So you can see that we want to take this point as far across here. So with our arm, we're just going to come across and press out, okay, and we're going to bunch that pec up as hard as we possibly can. All right, and get as much blood through there. Go for about 20, all right, and then switch over, 20 again. Okay, so that being said, with our rear delt work and all our warm-up exercises, I suggest going through for about 15 to 20, get some blood through there first, really dive in and nail those minor movement patterns, get the blood through. Do sets of 15 to 20 for about 3 on each side until you start to feel that little minor burn. Nothing that's going to take too much out of you, because obviously we are priming ourselves for the big loads, but enough that it's going to get some blood through to that point there. Also, when it comes to priming, the last point when it comes to your warm-ups, what I strongly suggest you do is, once you have, say, done or part of your warm-up sets, I'd probably do 3 warm-up sets. My number 1 warm-up set is just to make sure that you go through the correct processes. So if you're doing a bench press, make sure that shoulder blades are back and down and everything's feeling good. Go really light. Number 2 set is about speed. So move that bar as fast as you can in the right movement pattern. And then number 3 is tying it together with a little bit of a light load, and then shoot your way up to your weight. All right, team, that there is how you want to go about warming up for your push day, whether that be a chest day or a shoulder day. I hope that helps.